Let's look at, the logistics of this. Let's look at how logical it is to come to the conclusion that they're drugging me and that I'm right. Well, in the case of the Crystal Geyser water from 7-Eleven, what would they have to do in order to, drug it? Well, they just have to keep an eye on me, which we know they are. Um, and then when I went to the store, when I started driving toward the store, automatically the options are limited. They know I have a tendency to go to the grocery store once a week. Time and time again, I've expressed, you know, my displeasure with going to the grocery store. So they would just have to say, well, where do they sell water? Because he can't use the water from the sink. We've drugged the water in his house. We've collaborated with his parents. Where do they sell water? Where do they sell soda? Okay. And believe it or not every liquor store has a decent variety of soda, or even packs of soda, or even, big bottled water. So, and couple that with the fact that I've been to 7-Eleven many times, all they would have to do is take a row of water, not even that, a half row of water. What's that going to cost them? $7. If they paid it out of pocket. You know, drug the first 7 bottles of water, drug the first 2 or 3 big, big bottles of water, and drug the first 2 or 3 gallon jugs of Crystal Geyser or any other gallon jugs they find. That might cost them $15 at the most. Compare that to the price of gas to follow somebody around. It's like that's like paying the gas prices of one operative or one gang stalker. It is a walk in the park for them to drug someone covertly, especially when they have ties with big pharma.
Big Pharma is allowed to do what they do in exchange for helping to maintain the internal organization of America. So Big Pharma makes tons and tons of money. They probably give them these drugs for free. And the regulatory agencies perhaps are even in on it. And so they get the drugs for free. They replace the water bottles. They buy the water bottles. They flash a court order. They say, well, we have a court order, to drug them. Or maybe it's a fake court order. Or maybe they pay them under the table. But regardless, there's many ways for them to put someone inside legally and otherwise. They replace the water, you know, and they've done it all for less than the price of paying one operative's gas. Regardless how you look at it, it's logical. It's on the department budget. Look at police when they rent a car. It costs them less to drug me every time I go out than it costs the local police to rent one car for an undercover operation from Enterprise. When it comes to actually putting the drugs in place. And we know following people around and doing surveillance is what they do anyway. You know, so then it's a matter of outsourcing, using the budget, the anti-terrorist budget, the counter-terrorist budget, to outsource to local political groups, which they're by anyway. The FBI headquarters, whatever, in San Francisco, they're right by a bunch of feminists and gay rights groups, and they outsource it to them. They outsource it to the local gangs. There's many ways that these people, are in touch with these people. None of this is really anything other than what you would expect. When a bunch of females who aren't allowed into combat, who think they're tough, are put in the psychological operations unit and in the kitchen and other despicable places. A bunch of gays who are too weak for combat team up with them in the psych op unit. They use their network in San Francisco. And a bunch of other sissies who, for whatever reason, lack the courage to be posted in some foreign country or something and prefer to harass American citizens domestically. And of course, there's other agencies that collaborate with them. And ever since 9/11 and the Patriot Act, all these fusion centers, it has been made very easy and very obvious that they do that. So everything you see is exactly what you would expect. And they justify it by saying the war on terror is a war on the American way of life. Okay? with our values. So in order for them to fight the war on terror, they need to fix home first and get people to fall in line and and to strengthen the American will, if you will, to be a Masonic bootleg. Let's look at the first time I went to the psych ward. The first time I went to the psych ward, I went next door to see the neighbor's daughter without permission. My dad and my uncle tackled me and carried me to the psych hospital. From that day forth, they would collaborate because they told him, hey, you can't do that yourself. You're supposed to call the police. Okay. And that was for going to see the neighbor's daughter. It had to do with the organization of my family or my parents' control over me when I was like 14 or something, you know, maybe 15. Okay. And they said, well, he had temporal lobe seizures, an idea that they've since abandoned and it has never come up again since my youth. Um, Even though they used to always insist everywhere they went that that was the case, they were wrong on record. So on record, my parents misperceived the situation. Their preconceived notions were incorrect, and the system would take advantage from that point on forward. And so later on, after going to reform school, which shows it has to do with them trying to make me fall in line, February 26, 2011, the anniversary of my uncle's death, my older brother, turned off my chicken wings, and I was starving, and I had taken a nap hungry, which is part of the mistake I made. I was so hungry that and I was sick of waiting for the chicken wings. On some subconscious level, or maybe semi-consciously, I made the decision to go to sleep, because I was feeling so weak. So when I woke up, I was starving. I was dying. I go downstairs, thinking my chicken wings are at least ready. They're off. My older brother's eaten one of them, and they're cold. There's like a little bit frosty on the inside. They had turned them off way prematurely. I get angry. I storm off, and I leave hella mad, and I drive away. I drive down the road, and I decide, you know what, I'm better off just going back, turning the chicken wings back on. I go back, you know, my little cousin stares at me. It kind of feeds into the anger. My older brother, you know, is in the kitchen hovering, and I'm like, I just storm back upstairs, really mad, or I put the chicken wings in, I think, and I storm back upstairs. Then I go back down. I grab the chicken wings. I come back up. While I'm working, opening the lock, he grabs me, busts through the door, breaks the lock. The lock is still broken to this day from that incident. The chicken wings break, fall on the ground. Make a long story short, at one point my dad and my brother are holding me down, and my brother says, "You're gonna go to the," my mom comes upstairs, says, "What's going on?" They say, "Call the police." And before she even comes back, before the police come, my older brother says, "You're gonna go to the psych ward. They're gonna drug you, and you're gonna fall in line." And he's very angry. He's acting very erratic. He kind of like flexes his muscles and starts doing a little dance, and it's weird. It's very strange. So most of it, mostly because it's due to the struggle. He was pumped up from grabbing me and pushing me through the door, and he was holding on to my arms while I had the keys in one hand and the plate of chicken wings in the other. And I was wearing this black jacket, which sleeves were ripped. Police come. I point out that the lock is broken, and the chicken wings are broken on the ground. Just they had sauce on them, and they're everywhere. They say, "I don't see any chicken wings. I don't see any broken lock," even though they're right there in their face. You know, they had seen them from the moment they walked in. Then they decided to not look in that direction while they're inside. So I go to the psych ward on the anniversary of my uncle's death. There's about 3 or 4 EBOs working in the psych ward, which, perhaps is strange. On the one hand, it may not be so strange because a lot of EBOs have degrees and certificates. But on the other hand, it was on the anniversary of my EBO uncle's death, and they were acting very strange in there. They were laughing. They were mocking me. They were laughing at me. They made it absolutely clear that this is punishment, and that and I didn't really understand why. I'm like, why do these people want to punish me on the anniversary of my uncle's death? What possible motive do they have? And ever since then, the gang stalking really kicked off. But it was really in 2010 when I went to University of Phoenix that the strange activities began. After a 2-hour, I think it's called an entrance counseling, or I forgot what the word, it's when you first get counseled to go to college. My counselor was asking me all kinds of crazy questions, including the password to my email and all kinds of weird questions. And, he would leave for a while and he'd come back after like 15 minutes and ask me some more questions. And, so I think that was when they were gathering information, collaborating with my parents. Then my psychology teacher looked like my ex girlfriend from 10 years ago that I had serious issues with, you know, and she had said that she worked in Santa Cruz with children, and that's a story for another day. I want to keep this short, but there was a lot of things that made it clear to me, and then people started following me and stalking me and harassing me at University of Phoenix. That is when it really began. And back then, I made a video about University of Phoenix, complaining about the treatment, and I said that they're persecuting me for my political views. I still have that video. I deleted it off my account, but I still have a backup copy buried somewhere. All right, so when you look at the situation, absolutely, I've been treated unfairly. I've been given many, I've been set up to go to the psych ward for petty shit since then, and every time it's a conflicting diagnosis. Bipolar, schizoaffective, psychosis induced by marijuana, and finally, you know, the last psychiatrist said that perhaps there's nothing wrong with me at all. But then my dad talked to him behind my back illegally, and he changed his mind. So then I stopped seeing him, and then yeah. So I've been set up to go to the psych ward many times, and one time I was on the anniversary. It was on my little brother's birthday. Another time was on, another two other times. More than once it was on the anniversary of my uncle's death. They're showing that it was deliberate. They were showing that they mean to make me fall in line. And remember, my brother had said specifically that this was about getting me to fall in line. Okay, so psychiatry absolutely is a control mechanism. Absolutely. And, when you listen to my story, it's exactly what you would expect. Oh, when I was at the psych ward one time, the coffee made me change my, I felt like it was drugged, and it must have been drugged. I had the head change and everything. The covert drugging, to my best of my knowledge, started in the psych ward. And then it proceeded to fast food restaurants and different cannabis clubs. And ultimately, it ended up everywhere I went, I remember that they had been watching my habits for years before they started to select certain restaurants to, drug me. And I started seeing the family members of people at the psych wards on social media sites and so on and so forth. And one of them even admitted being related to a person that worked at the psych ward. Another female admitted being related to a teacher that works at University of Phoenix. Okay, and I've seen maybe several dozen of these people, and the people who admitted it, they brought it up, not me. They're like, oh, you go to University of Phoenix? Oh, my mom works there, you know, and so on. They say, we talk about the psychiatry, and they say, oh, my mom works at the psych. My mom's a psychiatrist. So it's one female at University of Phoenix said her mom's a psychiatrist. One female from East San Jose said her mom works at University of Phoenix. One female who my brother was dating, black female, said her aunt works for University of Phoenix, and so on and so forth. There was like maybe one or two others. Well, I'm just gonna end it there because I didn't want to make it this long. Thank you.